Alright, let's look and see. Let's see how many people have tried to shed some light on it. The new meta in Dead by Daylight lies. Dead by Daylight, why the meta needs to change. Why doesn't DBD change its meta? That's changes to killer. I don't entertain Scott Judd anymore. So yeah, at least two underrated content creators. Well, I wouldn't even say underrated. They're more like nobody content creators like me have tempted to try this. So you know what? I'm gonna try to shed some light on it. What is up, guys? It's your boy Margaret the Great, and in this video, well, I wanted to continue to talk to you guys about why I really haven't had very much motivation to play Dead by Daylight. My hours played combined from last week and this week would total out to probably maybe an hour and 30 minutes versus whenever I was playing Dead by Daylight consistently within a 2-week time span, I would probably have a total around 54 hours, and that's within 2 weeks. So my playtime in Dead by Daylight has been going down, and it's not just because of life. I mean, on my off days, like where I'm not working, I'm not even playing Dead by Daylight. But let's get to the topic on hand. So the meta. For those of y'all that are unsure, what is a meta? So when it comes to PvP games, you will always have a meta. Think of a meta as, say if you go on Twitter and in the upper right hand side there's a box telling you about what's trending. Think of that as the meta, except in Dead by Daylight it's completely different. In Dead by Daylight, perks are what we consider meta, or what create a meta. So for an example, a killer's meta is slowdown perks. Perks such as Ruin. You've got Ruin and Undying so that you can slow down gens. Pop Goes the Weasel to regress them. Tinkerer, so that you know what gen to go in pressure. Those are slow. That's your meta perks for killer slowdown. Whereas Survivor meta is typically chase related perks. So a chase related perk would be kind of like exhaustion, such as Sprint Burst, Balanced Landing, Lied, Smash Record. I think that's what that move is called. That perk is called, and Dead Hard, especially Dead Hard, since Dead Hard is the most used Survivor perk. And then also on your Survivor meta, you also have things that I like to call second chance perks, or in other words, your training wheels. Second chance perks would go along the lines of perks like Dead Hard would technically be a second chance perk, but along the lines would be perks such as like DS. I consider DS a second chance perk, though this is completely on the killer now if a killer gets hit with DS. But those are the metas. Now I want to talk to you guys about why exactly does the meta need to change. Let's say that you have a bowl of grits and some butter. You make your grits and you add butter to it. The butter gives it flavor, and you eat that every single day for breakfast. And after eating it for probably about a week, you're gonna start getting tired of eating grits with butter. You're gonna want to add something else to it. Well, that's the exact problem with the Dead by Daylight meta. The Dead by Daylight meta is stale right now, and it makes for boring gameplay due to the simple fact that you're constantly going to expect that. Whenever you load in as a survivor, you automatically expect the killer to have slowdown perks. When you load into the match as a killer, you automatically expect survivors to be running some form of second chance perks, whether it be DS or borrowed time, or just straight up exhaustion. You always expect it. It calls for stale gameplay, and this is one of the reasons why I haven't necessarily been playing Dead by Daylight, because I just know what to expect. And with me being a killer man, I have been trying to play Survivor lately, but Survivor just isn't fun due to the simple fact it's not very interactive, and I don't sense any skill within the Survivor gameplay. Now, I am 100% sure Behavior is aware of how stale gameplay is. I'm 100% sure they're aware of that. So what is it that Behavior is trying to do? Thing is, Behavior is trying to buff other perks. For example, recently what was that killer? One of Blight's perk, Hex Blood Favor. They recently removed the cooldown on it because they are trying to get that perk used more often. The behavior is literally trying to spice up the gameplay. On the Survivor side, Hex, I said Hex, as if Survivors have Hex. Survivor side, what was it? Adam's perk that lets you, Deliverance. They buffed the broken duration. Same with Zarina's perk that when you heal someone, they reduce the duration of how long you're broken. What else? Windows of Opportunity got buffed because Zash and Tactics was buffed. Behavior is literally trying their best to change the meta, to spice it up. The only problem is the thing that mostly dictates the meta in this game is simply each side chooses their perks, or the meta is based off of how each side plays. For an example, gens go by very, very, very fast, and if survivors wanted to, they could knock gens out really quick, which is why killers run slowdown perks. And if I'm being honest with you, this is just how I see it on the spectrum. This is my vision. Remember, everything that I say is my 2 cents. It's not law. The way I see it, survivors do not have to run meta perks. They simply do not have to run meta perks. If you get good enough at survivor, you're gonna realize you do not have to run those meta perks. So whereas a killers are forced to run meta perks. And this is going to get into another topic that we're going to talk about next. But but getting back on track to what it was that I was saying is behavior. You are trying your best to buff other perks to change the meta, but there's something that you're not realizing that you have to do. So let's go into our next topic on what it is, on how do you get the meta to change. All right, so welcome back to Photoshop, everybody. So where we left off at, I need to change my colors because I don't like constantly using black. We'll go with my favorite color, blue. So where we had left off at, so how exactly do you change the meta? So here you have your current meta, your chase perk, your exhaustion, and your chase perks. I forgot to mention, borrowed time is technically a chase perk because it gives second chances, or in other words, training wheels. And then over here as your killers, this is I've used Ruin as an example of slowdown. So how do you change the current meta? So another game that I have been playing is Warframe. And in Warframe, so before I had stopped playing Warframe for probably I decided to take like a 3-month break from Warframe. So before that 3-month break, the meta in Warframe was melee weapons. Melee weapons was the go-to for every single thing. Well, besides certain like boss fights and everything. So like it's Steel Path, which is hard mode for Warframe. Everybody was using melee. DE, Digital Extremes, the developers for Warframe, they realized that melee weapons were a problem. They weren't necessarily a problem, but they were being overused. So how did DE address this problem? They buffed guns. They buffed stats of guns and everything. That is the step that behavior is on. But Warframe, Digital Extremes, when they realized that they buffed guns but melee was still being used, they took another step to try and change that, which is a step behavior is afraid to do. What did Digital Extreme do that behavior isn't doing? Well, granted, I understand Warframe is a completely different game than Dead by Daylight, but I can use the meta as an example on how to change the meta for Dead by Daylight. So what did Digital Extreme do to melee weapons? Well, they buffed guns even more. They truly did. Like behavior, y'all are buffing other perks. But here is the problem. What Digital Extremes did was they didn't nerf melee weapons to oblivion. They nerfed the core things that was making melee overpowered. Then they buffed guns to where they could potentially be overpowered. This is the problem that behavior is having. Behavior, you're too scared to touch your survivor perks. You're too scared to nerf them. I can see y'all want to create a new meta. Y'all are buffing perks, but here's the problem, behavior. You're too scared to buff survivor perks. And you know what? I need to stop being biased, really. It's same thing for killers. You're too scared to nerf the existing meta. Because you can have a whole bunch of brand new perks. Like you literally can. There are other perks out there that have a ton of potential to be meta. But the reason why they're not making it to become meta is because of the existing meta. The existing meta is still there. The existing meta, it's still relevant. The existing, it's relevant. And not only that, behavior. If I'm being honest with you guys, I only feel that behavior is encouraging. They are only encouraging the meta. For an example, one survivor perk that could have changed the meta. This perk did change the meta, but all it did was encourage it. Medal of Man. Medal of Man was a slightly good change to the survivor meta, but all it literally did was encourage it. But because it was overperforming, behavior, you stuck a knife in this perk and you gut it open like a catfish, and now nobody uses the perk. You don't have to go that far. PTB Medal of Man, in my opinion, was good. Like that was where it needed to be. Granted, I wasn't on PC at the time, but that's where the perk should have been. You wouldn't have, like, you didn't need to gut the fish. You didn't need to gut the perk. You just needed to nerf it to where it wasn't as powerful. And like I was saying with Warframe, when they nerfed melee weapons, they didn't obliterate melee weapons. They nerfed them to where they're still relevant, but they're not completely useless. But behavior, like I said, Medal of Man, all you really did with this perk was just killed this perk. Like, you literally killed it. Another perk on the killer side contributing to what I'm saying. Where is it? Okay, so here we are. Like I was saying, behavior. This is Pinhead's perk, Deadlock. Behavior. This is what this perk does is when a generator is complete, it blocks off the next generator with the most amount of progression. That's what this perk does. Behavior. All you're doing, like on the killer side, all you're doing is just encouraging the meta. That's literally all you're doing. You are literally just encouraging the meta. Excuse me, guys. I just drank some water and I got a lot of air in my stomach. You're not trying to, the killer side, you're not trying to change the meta. You're changing perks that, granted, I may be looking too far into the high ranks and the mid ranks, but can you cater to the lower ranks? Yes, you can cater to the lower ranks. When you cater to the lower ranks and your casual players, you tend to push your veteran / professional players away from the game. But Deadlock, like, this is one of the newest perks. This perk is becoming meta because it's a slowdown. It blocks off a generator, the generator with the most amount of progression. Now, how do you change the meta? Like I said, simply is you got to nerf the existing meta to create a new meta, which brings us to our new meta. Now, as I said, guys, this is my vision. If you were to completely, if you were to completely change, like if you were to nerf survivors meta perks and killers meta perks, what's then gonna happen? So the way I see it, and like I said, this is my vision. Gen perks are gonna become meta for survivors. I personally do. That's proved that self for those of y'all that didn't know it. Gen perks will become meta due to the simple fact, I can't have fun in my chases, so I guess I might as well just knock out gens. And then for the killers, well, gen perks got regression, slowdown got nerfed, so only thing we can depend on is chase perks. This is how I see the meta. Will you be creating a brand new meta? Yes, you will. You will 100% create a brand new meta. But unlike Warframe, and I'm done. It's like that. This is the last time I'm gonna compare Dead by Daylight and Warframe because they're two completely different games. But unlike Warframe, in Dead by Daylight, if you create a new meta, you're gonna run into a whole brand new problem. Changing the Dead by Daylight meta is going to create and expose the core game issues with the game. Right now, Dead by Daylight's meta covers up those core game issues. So what do I mean by it's going to create a problem with core game issues? So on the killer side, what's going to become a problem? Gen times. As of right now, gen times are already atrocious. Gens go by really fucking quickly. And when I say really quickly, I mean like super quickly. So gen times are going to become problematic. Why is this a core game issue? Because survivors do not have enough objectives prior to gens. Because when a survivor loads into a match, the first thing that's on their mind is, where's the nearest generator? When a killer spawns into a map, the first thing that's on their mind is, where did the survivor spawn? You find a survivor, guess what? You got to push them off that gen, and you got to defend that gen. And then you have to chase that survivor, which you're losing gen pressure at the same time. You see how I'm going into a domino effect? Gen times are going to become a problem, and because of gen times, that's going to become, now granted, yes, the killer meta may be this is a new meta. With the new meta, the killer meta may be chases, so maybe chases aren't going to be that bad. But I still think gen times are still going to be problematic due to the simple fact survivors do not have enough objectives. Now, if you change the survivor meta, what is the main core game issue? Well, camping and tunneling is going to go on the rise, but just 100%. That's Meg on the hook, and I'll zoom it in for you guys if you can't see. There's Bubba camping. Now, camping and tunneling is gonna be on the rise. Why? Because it's gonna be the best way for killers to create pressure. And granted, yes, I know it's gonna suck for that survivor that's being camped. It's gonna suck for that survivor being chased. But killers have too many objectives compared to the small amount of objectives that survivors have. That is a core game issue. You know what? One thing that might help reduce this core game issues that's a problem? Maps like Suffocation Pit. Suffocation Pit is a huge map. Azarov's Resting Place, huge map. RPD, huge map. What else? What was it? Not Haddonfield. It's Temple of Purgation, Plagues map. That is a huge map. Maps are also a core game issue. But what happens when, now let's say that behavior was to address these core game issues, the way I see it, they can address gen times. You can't nerf gen speeds. You nerf gen speeds again, the way I see it, nobody is gonna play Survivor because gens take entirely too long. Can you address map sizes? Yes, you can. Only problem is S tier, which now Nurse is the only remaining S tier killer. Now, S through a minimum of at least B plus tier killers are going to become problematic because they will be too strong. And then, how would you? Okay, so personally, I don't see a way how you can address camping and tunneling due to the simple fact the problem with the game nowadays is everybody is more focused on the 1v1 and not the 1v4. Due to the simple fact, survivors relish the chase, and if I'm being honest with you guys, behavior is too caught up in listening to their survivors. If something is a problem to survivors, they addressed it. Oh, behavior, spirit is a problem. We heard you. We'll nerf spirit. Meanwhile, killers. Hey, behavior, we think survivors have it just too easy, especially with their second chance perks. Oh, we hear you, killers. We're gonna buff dead hard. Camping and tunneling should be a 1v4 thing to take care of, to solve the issue with. But here's the problem: certain killers like Leatherface can't. Okay, so if Leatherface wants to camp, you just have to let him camp. How do you solve that issue? Well, Meg here on the hook. In this situation, if there is a new meta, Meg here on the hook. The only thing that if they have voice chat that she would do, if I was this Mac, I would be talking mad shit to this Bubba to keep him focused on me while my team does gens, because honestly, that's the only way to address camping. Tunneling should take a team effort to prevent. Now, I know I said with the new meta, chase perks they're not going to necessarily be useless, but they're not going to seem as strong as survivors want them. But all in all, in my opinion, this is how you get the meta to change. The problem is core game issues. With these core game issues, I don't see the meta changing anytime soon. And behavior, I'm gonna go ahead and fucking say this. You're aware of these core game issues. You are 100% aware of these core game issues. You just don't want to address it because money. And behavior, we have asked you as a community multiple times, spend a whole chapter working on the game's health. Working on the game's health also refers to core game issues. This is what you need to do. Behavior, if I'm being honest with you, it wouldn't hurt to shut the servers down for at least a month so that y'all can fix these core game issues with the game. I mean, but hey, I'm just a nobody content creator. I mean, it's me personally. If I was in Matthew Cote's position and I seen all this, well, one, don't put me in Matthew Cote's position because killers are going to become way too damn powerful. Like, I'm openly admitting that right now. If I was Matthew Cote, killers would become way too powerful. Then it's behavior. That's all you really need to do. Behavior. I'm 100%. You are aware that the meta is stale. And I can see it in y'all's efforts. Y'all are trying to change the meta. Y'all just won't take the next step to change the meta. Why? Because y'all know these core game issues exist. And if you address these core game issues, you're going to have a domino effect. Gen times. You give survivors another objective. Guess what? It's going to seem a little bit more balanced, but certain killers are going to be performing too well. Map sizes. You decrease map sizes, S to B plus tier killers they're gonna become problematic. They're gonna become super problematic. Camping and tunneling, tunneling can be addressed as a team. Everybody, the survivors, there's 4 of them. They need to work together as a team to prevent tunneling. They need to take hits. Camping, if I'm being honest with you guys, I have no solution on how to address camping. I don't. Like, the only way to address camping, in my opinion, is just to knock out gens as fast as possible. But then again, that's the problem. I just realized it. Because survivors have more objectives, that you make the killer strong. And you see, guys, this is why I don't do balance talk. This is exactly why I don't do balance talk, because it gets very, very, very difficult, and you run into paths that are just that lead into more and more domino effect. And if I'm being honest with you, I don't get paid enough to even be putting this much brain power into the game. But we're gonna wrap up the video because I'm pretty sure this video is lasting way longer than I intended. But let me know what you guys think. So I'm open to all positive feedback, constructive feedback, negative feedback. I mean, like if you go in the comments and threaten me, I'm just gonna look at it and be like, okay, you're cute threatening a veteran. But like, subscribe for more content. If I'm being honest with you guys, my Dead by Daylight content is fixing to get more and more scarce, because like I told you guys at the beginning of the video, for the past 2 weeks, I only have 1 hour and 30 minutes of gameplay of playtime in Dead by Daylight. And I'm trying to get good at Tekken 7, so that I'm trying to get good with another character so that I can start making Tekken content. But that is all I have for you guys for now. I am Mike the Great, and I will see you guys in the next video.